Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date. If I lost my train of thought for a second. Sorry. Today's date, January 29th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, I do like to say we are a family-friendly podcast. At least we try to be. So we do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be a little bit graphic for young viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we begin this? I never thought that the queen of the raccoon community would have a beef with Minnie Mouse. I wish I could make this up, but yes, Candace Owens, the queen of the raccoon community. I say raccoon because, well, do some word on play association. But aside from that, yes, she has a beef with Minnie Mouse.
Some real news, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, Candace, but Disney is totally changing Minnie Mouse. Disney is putting Minnie Mouse in a pantsuit. That's right. They're getting rid of the skirt. Why are they doing this?
Oh, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad they're doing this. Let me just tell you, Jesse, it goes back to like when they did this to the M&Ms, and now they're making her more masculine. And I'm glad that they're now realizing that this needed to be addressed. You know, all of us were traumatized when we saw Minnie Mouse and she was looking like a female as we were growing up. I mean, look, this is why people don't take these people seriously. They're taking all of these things that nobody was offended by. It's like they have to get rid of them and destroy them because they're bored. You know, they're absolutely bored. They're trying to destroy fabrics of our society, pretending that there's issues. So everybody looks over here. Look at Minnie Mouse. Don't look at inflation, Jesse. Look at Minnie Mouse. The world is going forward because you've got her in a pantsuit. Never mind that you can't get anything at the grocery store and you can't buy a piece of bacon unless you got $30 in your pocket. At least we're addressing the real problem, which is Minnie Mouse. You're a teeth.
So, literally and figuratively, Candace Owens, the queen of the raccoon community, and in my opinion, the one person who forgot their 5 minutes of fame was like up 5 years ago, decided that she wanted to go on a tirade about Minnie Mouse because for the Disney in Paris, they had a celebration coming up in which that fashion designers wanted to redesign Minnie Mouse's outfit. And conservatives are losing their effing minds. I wonder why. Because, again, this is Candace Owens. We should not be surprised about Candace Owens, the same woman who said Kanye West was a genius, the same woman who sat there and wrote a paper on Hitler, the same woman that turned around and said that black people are on the Democrats' plantation, the same woman that tried to come up with Blacksit, the same woman that, you know, for a lot of things that she says has no merit. And the simple fact of the matter is she's basically the wet dream Republicans want in a black person, except they have to admit that they're racist. And why are we concerned about a cartoon? That's my thing. It's like, wait a second, of all things going on in the world, you're rambling and ranting about a cartoon? This makes me wonder when people, this is the same type of people that got upset when the green M&M stopped wearing heels. The green M&M stopped wearing heels and people lost their minds, which makes me wonder, do people have a secret cartoon fetish? That's the only thing I can think of, because I mean, to her extent, she is somewhat right. There are other things going on in the world, but she's angry about the fact that they're trying to do and it's always that one thing. Oh, they're trying to push an agenda on us. They're trying to push an image on us. They're trying to change the agenda on us. And I'm just like, well, if they are, I mean, there's other successful ways to do it. There are other successful ways. You don't have to go the slow subliminal messaging type. But again, it's Candace Owens. Why should we be surprised? This is her niche. This is the reason why she has a show. She has a show that's just like Fox News that tailors to a certain extreme conservative view. And as long as they feed the fears or paranoias or twisted ideals of their viewing audience, then of course her show stays intact. I've said it many times. I say on this podcast that I'm not Democrat or Republican. I am progressive. I like to move forward. I like to think that we can move past various things of that nature. So I may vote Democrat, but I will never in hell vote Republican. I've even sat there and said many times the people that are Republican, basically black people and women, I can't figure that out. Why would you vote for a party that has nothing to do with you and is doing everything they can to dismantle your way of life? But again, this goes back to Candace Owens, and I've said it before. If I spoke the way Candace Owens does, because she doesn't do this because she believes in it, she does this because ratings, it's paychecks, it's advertisers throwing money at her. Because if you speak the language of the crazy people will support you. Don't believe me? Look at Trump. Man hasn't been president for almost 2 years, and yet people still follow him. People still buy his merch, and somehow Trump is still avoiding jail time. But if I turn around and spoke Republican the next day, I'll be on Fox News. I'll be on Tucker Carlson's show or any Fox News show in under 3 days. That's how starving that conservative view is for minorities. So they can sit there and say, oh, we're not racist. Here's our one black friend. But again, I just find it crazy for the simple fact of the matter that they are that hung up over a cartoon. If that's the case, hell, go after Donald Duck. Donald Duck hasn't worn pants for what, almost 60 years? Daisy Duck hasn't worn pants. I don't see them flipping out, but they pick and choose what they want to go after. So again, that's not surprising. What up, Doug? But it's just the nature of the beast when it comes to that situation. But I digress. Another thing I did want to cover really quickly is that every black person, I keep saying this all the time on my show, every black person has a police story. That just goes to show you where we are in the world. It goes to show you the fact that the wheels of justice are still moving too slow. The fact that there are laws for them and rules for us. Yes, I said it. Even more so, this example here. Imagine you are misidentified, arrested, and held in jail because you match the description. Now, this is the story of this man right here, Shane Lee Brown. On the left was misidentified as Shane Lee Brown on the right. Now, unless you're colorblind, you're going to notice there's a big distinction between the two, that this man on the left was misidentified as this man on the right. And for the simple fact of the matter is just that he got pulled over because of unregistered tags, which he admitted. He also admitted, Mr. Brown also admitted that for the simple fact of the matter that he did have a court date coming up. He had a court issued warrant, but he has court date coming up. The Las Vegas police at this time, their sheriff's department, sat there, took all that into account, still identified the man on the left as the man on the right, and took him in. Even when he arrived at the actual jailers, the officers at the jail, still did not do their job. And more importantly, looking up his name, who's Shane Lee Brown, again on the left, sat there and said, "I am not this person, Shane Neil Brown," on the right, that they actually have a felony warrant arrest for. Even more so, he was not transferred only to one county jail, but to two within the 6 days. His mother eventually had to call the city attorney to actually get them to look at the case and therefore finally get him out after somebody with a brain looked at the two pictures and said, this is not the same person. So again, that Shane Lee Brown right there is now going after the police department of Las Vegas for $500,000 in damages. I don't blame him because, again, how in the blue hell could you look at that? Imagine you being told that you fit the description, and then when you see the description, it's like you don't even look closely remote to that. So I can't blame him for that. But the simple fact of the matter is, I would go after the cops. I would go after sheriffs in jail. I would go after everybody that, came up with this mess. Because for the simple fact of the matter, there is no such thing as misidentification. It comes to a certain point that somebody didn't care or didn't do their due diligence. And with law enforcement, that is scary. But that's why I said every black person has a story. There's not a black person above the age of maybe 14. I would say 14 and under, they may have a story. But everybody else, 14 and up, we all got a story. We all got a story of we fit the description. We've all got a story of you were just, they always say wrong place at wrong time, or you look suspicious, or you look like you're up to something. We've all got that story. And that young man also has a story now that basically that the cops didn't do their job. So yes, it will always be that law enforcement needs to do better. But hey, this is the same law enforcement. This is the same law enforcement in America where you have to train longer to be a nail technician than you do a cop. Most places, like I said before, most cops train up to 6 months or less. A nail technician has to train for at least a year and a half. So you're telling me that a nail technician has more time to study their craft than a law enforcement officer has to study the law and procedures. Goes to show you something. But also another crazy thing that actually happened, which again is bringing up a lot of controversy, was the fact that this actually happened in Nashville, basically in my home city, where again this incident happened on Thursday where a man was literally on the road of I-65 and it wound up being in a shooting, basically because, long story short, the man, Mr. Estep, they finally identified him, was walking along I-65. A state trooper had pulled over to assess the situation, see what was going on, and then tried to basically get the man off the road. Now, again, from what it was told to us by law enforcement, the people that were there, the man shoved the man away and showed a box cutter. The attending officer did call for help. And then an off-duty Mount Juliet police officer who just happened to be riding by also assisted. So you now have 9 officers. They tried to talk him down for at least 30 minutes until they noticed that the man had his right hand in his pocket, which again, all officers began to draw because they were trying to, again, they said de-escalate the situation, until Mr. Estep did pull something out of his right pocket, as they described as a shiny object, and pointed at the cops, and the cops retaliated, all 9 officers shooting the one suspect. So a lot of people have looked at this and, different things about it. I sat there and said, when I first read this, I was like, that sounds like a lot like suicide by cop. It sounds a lot like that because let's be honest, when cops got something drawn on you and you got a weapon in your hand and then you raise your arm with anything, your object toward them, their initial reaction is to fire. But however, a lot of people are wondering, it's only one person with a box cutter. Why did it involve 9 officers? It was kind of overkill. Even now, that's the reason why that story is there, is basically now 3 independent investigations will be done about this to see if the police officers were in the right of using lethal force. I'm just saying that it's just odd that for something of that nature, that it required really overkill. I'm like, he has a box cutter. And I'm thinking to myself, there's 9 officers and 1 person. You're just there and telling me that no one thought of going non-lethal? Not one person? Which again, just goes to show you, like I said, I can't really call it a justified shooting if 9 officers shot the same cop. I mean, if 9 officers shot the same person. Is it really justified shooting or overreaction? Because let's be honest, with law enforcement, it's always overkill on certain people, and there's always not enough on the right people. So that just goes to show you. But we will follow that as it goes along because I'm quite curious to see what these 3 independent investigations will be done. One by the TBI, one by TBI, one by Metro, and then there'll be another one by an unnamed department. But we will follow that story as it goes along. The other story I wanted to catch, again, this is what I kind of worry about, and I say this all the time when it comes to education and things of that nature, and that how now there is a conservative push to mute certain items. I mean, we already seen in Texas where they are removing a lot of books, mostly of the LGBTQ and African American community, because they again are speaking about certain tones and themes. Think To Kill a Mockingbird, if you will. Just for the simple fact of the matter is that, well, let's just be honest, certain white folks do not like their kids learning about darker parts of our history. And I've always had an issue with that. It's the reason why I had an issue with social studies. I had an issue with social studies because social studies, for the most part, was literally the squeaky clean version of the American history. There was never, even in the dark periods where it went over slavery, where it went over internment camps, where it went over civil rights, it went over mass multiple acts of just misery against minorities and women. Social studies kind of, washed over that a little bit, and I've always hated that. Even more so that now a certain graphic novel is under fire in McMinnville, Tennessee, good old Tennessee, progressively backwards, that they have voted to remove a graphic novel basically talking about the Holocaust. I wish I could make this up.
Has banned the critically acclaimed graphic novel Mouse. It is a true story about the horrors of the Holocaust by Art Spiegelman, and it depicts Jews as mice and Nazis as cats. One school board member commenting on the book saying, quote, "It shows people hanging, it shows them killing kids. Why does the educational system promote this kind of stuff? It is not wise or healthy being in the schools. Educators and stuff, we don't need to enable or somewhat promote this stuff. We teach this material, to be clear, so that we don't forget." Joining us now is the Pulitzer Prize winning graphic novelist who wrote Mouse, Art Spiegelman. Art, how are you reacting to this?
Well, I've moved past total bafflement to trying to be tolerant of people who may possibly not be Nazis, maybe, because having read the transcript of the school board meeting, the problem is sort of bigger and stupider than that. They really genuinely focus, listening to this or reading this 20-minute document, they're totally focused on some bad words that are in the book. Like damn, I can't believe that the word damn would get the book jettisoned out of school on its own, but that's really where the genuine focus seemed to be. And despite the pull quote that you presented, it wasn't really like, there wasn't any hint of, well, you know, I think the author might be Jewish or something. We don't want to have Jewish books in our schools or something. It's not like that exactly, at least. So I'm trying to like wrap my brain around it. It certainly hijacked that brain sometime around 7:30 last night and hasn't let go since.
Yeah, I can understand why it's hard to wrap your brain around it. Or first of all, it's an honor to meet you. Just a giant fan of your work, had a profound impact on me. Their specific complaint was naughty language and nudity.
Well, the nudity would,
I mean, you're talking about the Holocaust. If your problem with discussions about the Holocaust are bad words and nudity, I'm just not sure you're getting the point.
I agree, which is why I'm still trying to go, how did this exactly happen? But the nudity is specifically a small image that has my mother right after having slashed her wrists in a bathtub being found. So it's seen from overhead, and you can see it's a tiny image. So you have to really like want to get your sexual kicks by projecting on it. It seems like a crazy place to get them. So I think that it has more to do with, I think they're so myopic in their focus, and they're so afraid of what's implied in having to defend the decision to teach Mouse as part of the curriculum, that it led to this kind of daffily myopic response. And daffy would be easy. I mean, the problem, of course, is that it has the breadth of autocracy and fascism about it, and it has a real problem with asking the parents to be on board to decide what's okay to teach the kids. And the values are too far away from those I can recognize to see how they got there. But I'm still trying to figure out how could this be just as limited as it is.
So really, for the simple fact of the matter, guys, it's the simple fact that, again, if you've never read Mouse, it is a wonderful graphic novel. It is a long story short, as they explain, Mouse is basically a graphic novel about the Holocaust, in which mice are depicted as Jewish people and cats are depicted as Nazis. It's a wonderful teaching tool to me, my opinion, because we should be able to teach our younger generation about the dark parts of history. I still think that we need to cover slavery. I still think slavery still. I mean, there's projects out there that are trying to actually cover those things. But again, Mouse is a great teaching tool. Now in McMinnville, If you've never been to McMinnville, Tennessee, there's only one way I can describe it. If you hear a banjo, start running. But it's amazing to me how they sat there and said, well, it's got nudity, it's got language. And I'm like, the darker parts of American history are not clean by any means. They are not clean. They are not fan friendly. I mean, take the civil rights movement. That alone is a mass of atrocities that were done to people just fighting for equal rights. And I can point out to many sources, many books, many videos that show it exactly what it is. It does show white people who are racist beating down blacks, burning down towns, churches, buildings, smashing windows. I mean, even if you think about it, Lovecraft Country, which again was one of my favorite shows on HBO. Lovecraft Country, the first episode, Tulsa Massacre. It literally showed Tulsa Massacre, where again, Tulsa, Oklahoma, a mecca of a black city with businesses, towns, churches, and everything else, was burned down to the ground. People massacred in the streets by a mob of white people. And I remember when that first came out, that white people said that it was uncomfortable to watch. Why is it uncomfortable to watch? Because it's history. History above all else is not meant to be squeaky clean. There's a reason why there's an old saying out there that says, if we do not learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. Again, that is a tale as old as time, and it's true. Think about it. We are in 2022 right now, talking still about racism. We are still talking about inequality among minorities and women. It is 2022. I mean, it hasn't been too long since the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and 60s. We're still not far off from that. And again, I keep saying this whole entire time, just like when parents talk about critical race theory, I'm like, you are literally arguing about something that your child will never see unless they become a lawyer. But now that I think about it, maybe it's the fact of the matter that we do need to start teaching critical race theory in our schools. We actually need to go back and, like I said, remove social studies and put back in civics. So that way our kids can learn the Constitution instead of learning the squeaky clean version of American history, which has benefited no one. But speaking of things that don't benefit nobody, Joe Rogan's podcast. Because the simple fact of the matter is, Joe Rogan, whether you like him or that you hate him, the man has a following, and he's been under fire recently for his many attempts at sharing misinformation. Misinformation so much, in fact, that it's actually caused harm, in which people are starting to cancel Spotify. So actually, this is the lesson I'm about to show you guys, that no matter how important that you think you are, if you try to use your celebrity status, most corporations will always choose money over principle.
Legend gave a streaming service that has more than 172 million paid users an ultimatum this week. It's Joe Rogan or me. Neil Young told Spotify he didn't want to share a platform with the podcaster who has been accused of spreading misinformation about COVID-19 and the vaccine. Well, within days, it appeared that Spotify sided with Rogan and his 11 million listeners by removing Young's entire library. So what does this battle between Young and Spotify mean for the future of relationships between artists and the services that host their music? And could we see other artists do the same? So to discuss this, Jem Aswad, Deputy Music Editor for Variety.
So I just wanted to cover that one part right there. So if you don't know who Neil Young is a very famous musician whose albums and music was available on Spotify. And keep in mind, Joe Rogan again has really one of the most popular podcasts on Spotify. So when Neil Young saw what was going on with Joe Rogan's podcast and pretty much everybody canceling Spotify, he gave Spotify an ultimatum. Either you can remove his podcasts that are full of misinformation and dangerous, or pull my music. Spotify said, peace. It just goes to show you that, again, if you know who Joe Rogan is, I said it before, there's just something about him that was completely and utterly off. I mean, there was, especially during when he got COVID, he came on there talking about, oh, I'm taking ivermectin, I'm doing monoclonal treatments and things of that nature. Keep in mind, ivermectin is something that's given to humans. The problem is, it's also given to farm animals, but it's given to farm animals in larger doses. It's the same type of ivermectin for farm animals that you can get at most feed and seed tractor supply areas. But the dosage for animals is anywhere from 8 to 10 times more than you would give a human. So you had human people taking large animal-sized doses of ivermectin, and that can cause a lot of complications. And again, Joe Rogan did not stress that on his podcast. He didn't. I mean, he also had questions about the vaccine, which again, I point this out to anybody about the vaccine, and I say this all the time. I have 3 questions. There we go. I have 3 questions. I always ask the same 3 questions when people have issues about the vaccine. Number 1, are you a virologist? Number 2, are you a medical personnel physician? Are you a medical physician, doctor, or personnel that works in that field? And my personal favorite, have you published any papers regarding vaccine research in the last 30 years? If your answer is to no to all of these things, you have no expertise in the matter. But again, with Joe Rogan, he always felt like he had to question things. Even more so that a lot of people be like, well, you're going to Joe Rogan because he's just questioning, even though the facts are there. Just goes to show you that, that as dangerous as Joe Rogan is, unfortunately, he's profitable. He had, like I said before, he has one of the most popular podcasts on Spotify. His deal with Spotify is over $100 million. And at the same time, for the most part, he is Spotify's cash cow. Neil Young, as great as an artist as he is, and his music library could be arguably up there with the greats, Spotify sat there and said, Joe Rogan is still more profitable than you. So yes, you can take your music and go. Which goes to show you corporations above all else. Don't get it twisted about corporations. Corporations have always been about profit. They have always been more about profit than about principle. And that's business 101, profit over principle. And corporations have learned this lesson well. I always said it best. Do you think Nike really did take a stand when they signed on Colin Kaepernick? When they made Colin Kaepernick the face of Nike, do you really think that was principle? No, it was profitable. How to have at the time the most infamous person in a lot of people's eyes be the head of your Nike company. You will tick off those that hate Colin Kaepernick, but you will get people buying stuff that love Colin Kaepernick. Again, profit over principle. I'm just saying you'll be very hard pressed to find corporations out there outside of Ben and Jerry's that will actually do what they say they will do versus how much money they can make by going this route. So again, Spotify is just going to keep on chugging along as long as Joe Rogan brings in those numbers, as long as people are listening to his streams, Spotify will hold their position. Like I said, Joe Rogan to me is nothing more than Rush Limbaugh when he first started out. Rush Limbaugh was seen as controversial, was seen as misogynistic, and he was pretty much seen as a douche. But at the same time, there wasn't enough people out there with voices big enough to turn around to this, so we had to cancel Rush Limbaugh. You got to think, it took nearly 2 decades plus to finally get that man off the air. 2 decades plus to get a man who made a nice sizable sum, made a nice lifestyle for himself off his own radio show for so long that toward the end was the only reason they could get rid of him. Just goes to show you, most corporations will choose profit over principle. Just saying. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story because President Biden right now needs a win, and with one of the Supreme Court justices retiring, Biden is now taking on a new agenda, bringing a black woman to the Supreme Court.
Latest on President Biden's upcoming nominee to the Supreme Court. The president has promised to fill the seat of Justice Stephen Breyer with a black woman by the end of February. And it's on to the Senate. Senior White House correspondent Mary Bruce is tracking the nomination. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, here at the White House, President Biden's search for a new Supreme Court justice is now underway. We're told he's already reviewing bios of potential candidates. The White House saying this will be a rigorous process. President Biden this morning is looking to make history with his first Supreme Court pick and fulfill a key campaign promise.
I've made no decision except one. person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
Biden saying he will announce his pick by the end of February. He's promising to look at a broad array of candidates. And even though his nominee could be confirmed with just Democratic support, Biden is vowing to seek input from across the aisle.
I'm going to invite senators from both parties to offer their ideas and points of view. I'll also consult with leading scholars and lawyers. And I'm fortunate to have advising me in this selection process, Vice President Kamala Harris.
The VP expected to play a critical role. The president and I will work closely together on this and the selection process. The Senate's top Republican, Mitch McConnell, says he'll give Biden's pick a fair look, but adding that the president must not outsource this important decision to the radical left. The White House firing back.
If anyone is saying they plan to characterize whoever he nominates after thorough consideration with both parties as radical before they know literally anything about who she is, they just obliterated their own credibility.
The retiring justice always made clear the court is not a place for politics. Speaking to a divided country, Justice Stephen Breyer with a parting message about the future of democracy.
It's an experiment that's still going on. And I'll tell you something. You know who will see whether that experiment works? It's that next generation, the one after that. They'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I'm an optimist, and I'm pretty sure it will.
Now, as for what comes next, the president says he's going to be...
Oh, what comes next is going to be a freaking firestorm. For the simple fact of the matter...
In person here at the White House with some of the potential... Not
quite you. So, again, it's that... don't get me wrong. I love the fact that Biden is, coming out and sitting there saying, well, we want to make sure... I want to fulfill my campaign promise. And I'm like, for a lot of people that have voted for you, I'm like, do you really want to use the word campaign promise? I mean, you kind of been like 0-3 so far on campaign promises. But again, with Supreme Court Justice Breyer retiring, that does leave a seat open to be filled, even though we honestly can knock the Supreme Court up to about 26 judges, even though currently there's 9, but whatever. But Biden does want to go ahead and move forward with his campaign promise of putting a black woman on the Supreme Court. As I said, it's honestly about time. I can't be mad about that. The problem that you're going to run into, because I've said it before, because keep in mind, the Republicans under Trump got in 3 picks: Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barron, and Brett Kavanaugh. 2 of those picks were in the fast food express lane of validation. Even more so that the Democrats voted against Amy Coney Barrett and they voted against Brett Kavanaugh for reasons, especially for Amy Coney Barrett, who was put in after the notorious RBG, God rest her soul, had went on, and yet they replaced her before her body was cold in the ground. Which again, I thought was crazy of the Republicans to go ahead and pretty much make a Supreme Court overly conservative. And we've seen what happens so far when an overly conservative Supreme Court is allowed to look over landmark cases. Check out Roe versus Wade right now. It's being circumvented in Texas because their abortion law is still standing, even though Roe versus Wade is still law in the land. And at the same time, that just goes to show you that the Supreme Court is also looking over the case of affirmative action. They're looking over the case of affirmative action right now. So it's a scary thought that if they have no problem with a state telling a woman what she can do with her body. Imagine what they'll say if they say, oh, well, you may have to make sure that race is no longer, you have to make sure that race, how you view and hire people, that race isn't really going to be an issue anymore. That's a scary ass thought. Even more so that when Republicans were pressed about the fact of a potential black woman being a Supreme Court justice, well, this was the other side of how Republicans feel about Biden's move to elect a black woman to the Supreme Court.
President Biden's nominee will have to walk a high wire through an evenly divided Senate to reach the high court. The current justices took an average of 2.5 months to get from nomination through hearings to a confirmation vote. And tonight, Democrats hoping to move faster than that once the president makes his pick.
We want to be deliberate. We want to move quickly. we want to get this done as soon as possible.
The nominee will likely face strong GOP opposition. Texas Senator John Cornyn warning the president in a statement not to nominate a, quote, partisan who will legislate from the bench. But a 2017 rule change made by Republicans to allow the Senate to confirm Justice Neil Gorsuch, then 2 other Trump appointees with a simple majority, will now work in Democrats' favor in the 50-50 Senate. A political reality Republican Lindsey Graham acknowledged, writing on Twitter, quote, elections have consequences, and that is most evident when it comes to fulfilling vacancies on the Supreme Court. Graham voted for both of President Obama's Supreme Court nominees and was one of 3 Republicans to vote for Judge Jackson's confirmation to the D.C. Appeals Court, along with Alaska's Lisa Murkowski and Maine's Susan Collins, each possible votes for whomever President Biden nominates.
We can take our time, have hearings, go through the process, which is a very important one. It is a lifetime appointment, after all.
Whoever the president nominates will make history if they're confirmed. A 50-50 Senate has never confirmed a Supreme Court justice.
Yep. Sorry about that. But yeah, so what's so crazy about that is, you see Republicans are like, well, we just want to take our time. We don't want to rush anything. We're not trying to win political favors. Excuse me. We hope that Democrats basically take their time because we want to make sure that we're seeing all aspects of it. I want to sit there and say, no, and I did kind of clap when I said this. I said, no, keep that same energy. No, keep that same. If I'm the Democrats, keep that same energy. Keep in mind, Republicans, when they had the juice, they didn't care. They did not care how the Democrats felt about Conant Barrett. They did not care about Kevin Hall. They did not care about Gorsuch. If Republicans wanted them in, especially with Mitch McConnell running the Senate when Trump was president at the time, they fast-fooded those people through. So now the Democrats can elect a black woman on the Supreme Court. Now Republicans are saying, well, we just want to make sure the process is done correctly. There's no rush. There's none of this. I was like, nah, bruh, keep that same energy. Because if I'm the Democrats, hey, if the Republicans can do it once they have the power, now that we're in charge for the foreseeable time being, let's have fun. I'll be honest with you, if I was Senate Majority Leader right now, I would be hitting the gas on this. I would be going straight to confirmation hearings. The problem is, though, the real problem is just that Democrats still have a problem. Because keep in mind, Republicans needed everybody because of the rule change they did. Republicans could, as long as everybody on the Senate voted for confirmation, they could do so without the other party. Republicans did this with Amy Coney Barrett. They did this with Brett Kavanaugh. Now, Democrats could do the same thing. But let's be honest. The track record right now for all Democrats voting for the same thing in the Senate, my mind goes back to those 2 great old people, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. Good old Joe Manchin. Republicans dressed up as Democrats. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, that gives me pause. That gives me pause because the simple fact of the matter is, if all the Democrats are not together, then this one time in a lifetime, because I said, if we don't get this, I said, I'll be honest with you, we will never get this chance under the Republican administration. Republicans will never, ever, 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 will never vote in a black person as a judge. Will never. If it does happen, there'll be a lot of conservative heads that'll explode. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to finally elect not only a person of color, but a black woman to the Supreme Court. And I hope Biden comes through with this. I think that this is a way, because right now, Democrats need to win. Keep in mind, the midterms are just 8 months away. Democrats need all the wins they can get right now because they're not looking good in the win column. And I've said it before on this podcast, and I'll say it again, that Democrats are going to have a harder time currently convincing people to vote for them to keep their majority or increase it in the upcoming midterms. They're going to have a harder time because it will be easier for Republicans to convince idiots who have a short-term memory to vote for them again. It's just the way it is, because the Democrats right now don't have a lot of W's in the win column. And this Supreme Court justice pick to elect a black person, specifically a black woman, to the Supreme Court, screams volumes of wins if they can pull this off. But like I said, if I'm the Senate Majority Leader, I am fast forwarding this entire thing. That's just the way it is, because let's be honest, the Democrats win-loss record right now is starting to look like Detroit Lions. It's a goose egg, and you're perfect in losing, because the Build Back Better plan is still sitting on hiatus. You still have the George Floyd Police Reform Act, dead. You still have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, dead. You still have the Voting Act itself, dead. So again, 4 things that were brought up to the Senate, and all of them met an end. The only thing that Democrats actually did get passed was the infrastructure bill, which again feels like so long ago. So again, Democrats are going to have, like I said, Democrats are going to have a harder time at this rate. But I still think that they electing a black woman to Supreme Court is still possible and doable. I just wish they would put their foot on the gas and not care what Republicans think. Because at this point, Republicans didn't care about making the Supreme Court over majority of conservative. Democrats should feel the same way about making it progressive. That's just me. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story as well, that for people in childcare, it is getting harder and harder to find childcare, especially for a lot of us who are working, who have kids, who just want to make sure they're safe, that they're educated, that they're looked after while we're at work. Well, again, when it comes to childcare, and like childcare is much like fast food. It's just that people were complaining that, to people that those jobs were like, hey, well, you guys should, find better jobs or find better pay. Problem is, a lot of people listen, and now the childcare industry, well, it's on life support.
Crisis closing classrooms at Nurturing Early Education in Boston.
Oh, we need to get ready for the tea party.
The nonprofit staff has shrunk 30%.
Why can't you find employees?
Because they can earn a lot more money working anywhere other than in childcare.
Across the country, more than 10% of childcare workers have left the industry during the pandemic, driven out by closures and furloughs early on, and now wage competition. Nationwide, the average childcare worker makes just over $12 an hour, far less than K-12 teachers. And in this competitive hiring market, other industries are raising wages to attract workers.
This developmental time for children is the most critical developmental time in the human life cycle. And yet we're competing against other minimum wage jobs.
The American Rescue Plan, passed by Congress in March, spent billions to keep the childcare industry afloat. It helped Nurturing raise wages $1 an hour. But Martin Ramos, a teacher here, still works a second job at Home Depot.
I've been living like pay check by check, and I was getting behind on my bills.
With the staff shortage worsening, Nurturing is now taking 15% fewer students.
How long could families sit on a wait list?
They may sit on the wait list for the better part of 2022.
Across the U.S., roughly 10% of childcare programs have closed. Others are downsizing, and many parents are seeing prices rise and wait lists grow.
And parents, predominantly women, can't go back to work.
A recent survey found 84% of parents feel overwhelmed by the cost of childcare, and nearly 20% have quit a job because of it. The average annual cost nationwide is more than $10,000 per child. For the average couple, that's 10% of their income. For single parents, it's 35%.
Is my boo-boo?
Rashana Reynolds became a stay-at-home mom when her son was born last year. She was making less than $40,000 in Seattle.
The childcare cost was more than we were paying for rent. That's how much the childcare costs were. I decided, hey, I have to quit my job.
Okay. She and her husband are now trying to find daycare so she can get back to work. But the wait lists are up to 2 years long.
We can't find any childcare.
Nearly 3 million women, including hundreds of thousands of mothers, are still out of work from the pandemic.
And it's really important in terms of the jobs recovery going forward.
Neela Richardson is ADP's chief economist.
The U.S. is losing trillions of dollars when women are not fully participant in the labor market.
President Biden's Build Back Better plan would invest close to $400 billion in child care, boosting wages, offering universal free preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds, and guaranteeing middle-class families pay no more than 7% of their income on child care.
Parents can't pay more. Early childhood educators can't earn any less. And so it's going to continue to take significant public funding in order to fix this problem.
Just look at Rashana Reynolds and the career she left.
What was the job you quit when your son was born?
I was a preschool teacher and I had that job for 15 years. I loved it. It was great, but I could not afford the cost of childcare.
A teacher stuck at home, needed now more than ever.
If you want us to pour into your children, you got to give us what we need.
And that's crazy, isn't it? That just goes to show you guys, simple fact of the matter is just that, well, for lack of better words, when you saw the Build Back Better plan, I'm like, this would have helped. And yet, I will keep saying their names because all Democrats in the Senate voted except 2 people. Manchin and Sinema voted against this bill. So this is the point that I'm making, where a lot of parents are in this situation right now because childcare providers don't get paid a lot. Which again, unless you're in specific areas. Now, let me be very clear about that. There are some childcare providers that are getting paid well enough because some companies see the value of their employees, and some childcare places don't pay their workers enough. So their workers, as you just saw in the video just there, they pick up second jobs. So again, this is why I sit there and say that childcare, the cost of childcare has gone up along with everything else. But for the working parent, that's what it comes down to. You go from a 2-income to a single-income household because childcare, if you haven't noticed, and this is coming from a person whose family is in childcare, can be anywhere from $300 almost close to $400. I mean, it could be as low as maybe $125 a week up to almost $400 plus a week. And if you think about it, that's private school tuition. So a lot of parents, a lot of families are just sitting there thinking, okay, can we afford this? Or does one of us have to? I mean, yeah, you might get lucky and be able to work from home. A lot of companies are doing work from home now, which again, I've been working from home now for almost 2 years. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm addicted to it. And some families have been able to accommodate that. But there are a lot of jobs out there that are not work from home. And again, parents have to make that decision. Who's going to stay home and watch the children? Or we're going to, you might be able to get your family members. You might be able to get relatives, cousins. However, I mean, some people have made it work, but the overall problem is just that these industries that we depend on, especially childcare, workers are leaving for better jobs. And I have been saying that since the beginning of this whole thing, that we are just now seeing capitalism hit a fringe point when you have people who need to work but can't work because they need someone to watch their kids. And at the same time, the same people that you trust to watch your kids aren't getting paid enough to live off of. And that's why I said that Build Back Better plan would have helped. I wouldn't say it would have solved the problem. It would have helped. It would have actually moved it it would actually have moved the needle toward the right direction. But the overall problem is it still has to get back into the simple fact of the matter is we are not, I mean, everything is going up but your paycheck. The old tale is time. Everything goes up but your paycheck. Hey, Derek, what'd you say? Overkill. Yeah, it was overkill on that thing. Yeah, for that issue that happened on the air. I-65, you're right. Man, I'm so glad my children are grown. When they were young, childcare was a mortgage payment. Yeah, I completely agree. That's the reason why a lot of people, it's even to the point where a lot of couples out there that want to start a family don't have stopped or have pushed it back because right now trying to raise a child, trying to get childcare set up for that. I mean, you heard the waiting list, 2 years waiting list at that particular establishment. I'm more than sure I'm almost sure it's the same place or longer anywhere else, just because you're going to have a harder time with childcare because they don't want to pay people. You don't want to pay people. And then the cost of everything going up, which again goes into my next story, that again, companies, especially around groceries, are now letting people know that, yeah, you thought grocery prices were high. Now you're going to hate this next bit of news.
That's rising inflation and a new warning from one of the leading food companies saying prices are about to get even higher for some household staples. Our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, joined us with more. Good morning, Rebecca.
Hey, Michael, good morning. And we've seen these prices climbing from the grocery store to the gas station to rents. And now there are signs that the cost of some of your favorite foods and household staples are heading even higher this spring. Kraft Heinz alerting customers it will raise prices in March on dozens of popular products, including certain packages of Velveeta cheese by 6.6%, hot dogs and cold cuts up 10%, Oscar Mayer turkey bacon up 30%, plus the maker of Maxwell House coffee indicating coffee prices could rise as much as 5%. Kraft Heinz, of course, is not alone. We've seen this across the food industry. Unprecedented ingredient, labor, and transportation shortages coupled with surging demand have been driving prices higher. The company says the price increases are not a sweeping action across all its products and instead apply specifically to products experiencing the greatest cost pressures. And just yesterday, we heard this from the Fed. They signaled that they're on the verge of addressing this issue with soaring prices by hiking interest rates very soon. Michael?
All right. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
So again, guys, this is this whole thing I wanted to point out that that prices, everything's going up. Which again, I have to ask corporations because they always do this all the time. Well, we're going to raise prices because of supply issues and inventory and things of that nature. I always want to ask this question because corporations, much like those food companies, are still making profits in pandemic-like situations. So I'm trying to make this a point that I'm sorry. That was I guess kids are outside. That just threw me off for a second. But anyway, but no, it's just the whole idea that corporations are still making a profit in a pandemic-like era. That when I hear corporations talk about, oh, we're going to raise prices, I'm like, no, because the only reason you raise prices is the law of supply and demand. You know that you say that your supplies are going to be, you say your supplies are going to be limited. You say your supplies can be compromised. You said that inventory may be a little bit leaner, so therefore you raise prices. How do you do that? Because at the end of it all, corporations are still making a profit. Whereas people who need things, like they're just like, let's be honest, there are just certain things in life that you actually do need. I mean, you do need food, you do need water, you do need shelter, you do need these necessary things, food, water, and shelter, and other things like clothes to cover you to survive. That's necessary. And especially in the ways of food, because we need food to eat. Without food, we are pretty much dead, literally. So it's amazing to me that these companies out here who are over these things are saying, oh, well, because we can't afford these, we are going to raise prices. No, let's get down to the heart of it. You want to keep your profits up. You have shareholders, you have shareholders, you have stock owners and shareholders to answer to. And so therefore, to keep the green flowing, you want to increase prices. And you know for the simple fact of the matter that people will need this, so they will pay it. And again, that is completely and utterly unfair. You will know off the bat that people need these things, and yet you see it. You don't see it as a way of saying, "Well, we might just have to take a hit." No corporation has ever sat there and said, "Well, we might need to take a hit this year. We might need to take a dip in profits this year for the people." No corporation has ever said that. You know what every corporation has said? We got to raise our prices. We're sorry, we got to raise our prices. But you know the one thing I've always heard. The one thing you never hear when a corporation or company raises prices, do you ever hear that they reduce them? Do you ever hear that? I mean, everything from gas to groceries is going up, but you never, aside of gas. Gas would probably be the only commodity out there that I've seen prices go up and down and fluctuate based on OPEC and what they're getting from the Saudis overseas. That being said, food has never seen that. Prices have went up, but I've never seen food prices reduce. I mean, if you guys do see that, please let me know because I'm quite curious. But I know for me, I've never seen the price of food and other commodities that we consume ever go down. I mean, I even looked a few. I've tried looking a few times to see if there's ever been a price drop. But let's be honest, the only time you ever see a price drop at a grocery store is when it's on the clearance aisle. We all know where the clearance aisle is. And hey, Sean, and overpriced gyms. Yeah, overpriced gyms too. Because again, gyms at this point are being seen as mental health places because for a lot of people, myself included, I do like working out. And at the same time, it is more of a mental thing for me. I like to be able to work out for my mental as well as my physical health. So you're exactly right, Sean. But just moving right along, guys. It's just the whole thing of just that. It's amazing how these grocery stores are honestly getting away with this mess. I mean, not only grocery stores, but all the other places that provide food. I mean, this is the thing I was talking about, that everything is going up at your paycheck. They will literally nickel and I said it's amazing how corporations will nickel and dime a dead horse until it's basically glue. And at the same time, these are the things I want Congress to address, because nobody should have to worry about paying rent. But you know, when it gets down to the point to where you have to decide on paying rent or eating, that's going to be a scary ass decision that I don't push on nobody. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this last story before we get to our feel good segment. That again, I told you guys that this kind of stuff was going to be happening. I told you. I've been saying this since conservatives realized, oh, we can have a say in the way our kids are being taught, because literally this group right here, Penn America, is basically led by state legislatures that are for conservatives. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people don't know this. We keep in mind that more than 70 bills in 27 states seeking to regulate how and what teachers may teach about race, history, and sexualities in schools. That this is being done in different states. 70 bills in 27 states are seeking to regulate how and what educators may teach about race, history, and sexuality in school. I cannot make this up, how dangerous that is. Because again, you've seen how people react about CRT. You've seen how people react. And even more so, it wasn't the fact of the matter that it was there. It was the fact of the matter that for the longest, the easiest way I can say this, that white people just felt bad about, their kids learning that, yeah, your grandparents are racist. And it's like, oh, well, we don't want everybody to feel, white people seen as the enemy. When I'm like, historically, you guys were the enemy. I mean, there's not a group out there that you didn't offend or maim or rape or kill. I mean, or imprison. I mean, if you think about it, the Caucasian history out there has definitely shown us that, history may have a lot of good spots, but there are twice as many dark spots. And that was the whole point. Even though critical race theory was just a law school class, you had states, specifically Southern states, conservative Southern states, were passing laws about banning CRT in schools. Again, a class that was only taught in law schools is trying to be banned in public school systems that no teacher was teaching. Which again, I find it amazing that now, off of that study, that conservatives are now about to alter the way we teach kids, or trying to. You're going to basically tell an educator, we don't want you to teach this. We want you to teach this. I mean, you just saw it in the first thing I said about Mouse, which again is a graphic novel about the Holocaust, and people in McMinnville County in Tennessee are wanting to get rid of it. What's next? To kill him? I mean, if that's the case, go ahead and get To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is all about racism. Why don't you get rid of The Hobbit? It talks about it. Why don't you get rid of The Hobbit? If you're against spells and thinking it's witchcraft, get rid of Harry Potter if you think it's all about witchcraft. I mean, The Diary of Anne Frank. Go ahead and get rid about that. That was about the Holocaust. Again, Invisible Man. Again, about how black man's viewed in America. I can keep going down the list of books out there that I recommend that every child should read, because that will give perspective. That will actually teach awareness. You want to know how we get past racism? We teach cultural awareness. We teach the dark parts of history as long as the squeaky clean parts of history. That's how we make sure the next generation gets it. The next generation will not get it if we give this sunshine, it all rainbows, blue skies, American history never did anything wrong BS. We have to tell the good parts as well as the dark parts, as well as the ugly parts. We have to, because if we do that, then we can ensure that the next generation actually gets it. But if we sit there and sugarcoat it, if we hide our heads in the sand, if we remove books, if we basically pull a Fahrenheit 451 and remove books and literature and all these other things that offer different perspectives, that offer minority views, LGBTQ plus views, you guys have got to find a smaller acronym. I'm just saying. But if we remove all of those views and stories and walks of life from allowing these kids to learn, we might as well be setting them up for an eye-opener when they realize that the world is more bright, the world is more darker and dirtier and uglier. Only because, again, it goes back to that whole saying, we are doomed to repeat if we do not learn from history. If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. And if that tale is not any more true than nowadays, I don't know what to tell you. But again, we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. For all those that are working, hopefully you have a quick shift. For all those that are not working, hopefully the weather is being nice to you unless you're on the East Coast, because Mother Nature is undefeated. That being said, I do want to give a couple of stories, to leave you guys out on a good note, to put a song in your heart and a spring in your step, and just put out positive, good vibes. All I'm about. Well, hopefully these 3 stories will do that, especially this first one of a mother and daughter, where the mother worked at a hospital as a janitor, but her daughter is fulfilling her dreams of being a medical professional.
Her daughter to work. Well, now look what's happened. America Strong. Tonight, the photo of a mother and daughter outside the Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in Oakland, California. They are America Strong. Johanna Pena on the right, her mother Christina Pena on the left. Her daughter is a medical student working at that hospital, where mom Christina has been a custodian for nearly 2 decades. That daughter writing, "It's crazy how life works sometimes. I get to work with my mom at the same hospital in the same department. She has been a janitor here for 18 years. She raised a Latina physician in the making. I am so proud to be your daughter." There were years when she would visit her mother at the hospital where she worked. Now she's in her 4th year of medical school, and she's been accepted into a program at her mother's hospital.
Hi, baby. Another day at Kaiser Permanente.
Mother and daughter walking into work.
The reason why I shared that is because I know that I am here today because of my mom and my father's sacrifices.
And Johanna telling us where she's hoping her residency will be.
It really is truly an honor to be able to be here and have the opportunity to come back and walk the floors as a doctor. I love you.
So we salute this mother.
Yeah, we do. Because again, the world needs more doctors, teachers, educators. And I don't care if you're red, white, black, polka dot, or green. It's always cool to see a mother. It's always cool to see a parent that gets to see their child in the direction they want to be. Because again, that mother worked as a janitor at that hospital for many years, and now her daughter is on her way to being a doctor and basically learning in the same hospital that she's working at. And again, if that ain't a success story, I don't know what is. The next story I got, guys, again, I always say this best, and I always will say this all the time. Always be kind. I mean, the world could use more kindness. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, day, hour, or lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could use more of that. And you never know. And I keep saying this all the time. When you're kind to someone, or just doing something as small as, checking on them or making sure they're okay, or getting them a cup of coffee or even some food, it's the fact that you never know how that one action or one random act of kindness can lead to other stuff. This man found out because all he did was basically wish a couple with a newborn that everything is going to be all right for him. And look how it worked out for this guy.
And that message he left at the front door, we wanted to know what's happened since. Tonight, this simple act of kindness now growing. It is America Strong. Just outside Atlanta, UPS driver Dallin Harrell had been delivering packages to this home with a stork outside, holding a baby boy. Dallin, who had just had a baby boy too, Devereaux, wanted to wish that family well.
If this is the It's a Boy house, I hope all is going well with your newborn. I had a child around the same time you guys did, and I just hope everything is going good. God bless. Happy holidays.
Jessica and Matt Kitchell live there with their newborn Chansey, and they saw that message. They wanted to thank Dallin. They posted the video online and asked if anyone knew him. The response is immediate.
3 days later, Dolan back at the home, this time meeting the family and baby Chansey in mom's arms. Jessica and her family making a care package for Dolan and his family. And it didn't stop there. Mom, Jessica, sharing Dolan's baby registry online. And instantly, books, clothes, toys, all after that UPS driver's kindness. Those gifts from around the country taking up half the truck, as many as 15 packages a day. And tonight, he tells us they are still arriving, many from Americans all over this country, right on Dolan's doorstep. The diapers, the high chair, right here with us.
Hi there.
Dolan, on that simple act of kindness, his message and the gift now given to him.
I just hope that it continues to be a positive domino effect and people just take from this to be kind and love thy neighbor.
Well, we just loved his message of kindness.
I keep saying that. And I mean, all the guy did was wish a couple well, and look how that repaid to him. Now, I'm gonna admit some days you're not gonna get that karma back immediately. But whether you believe in karma or not, I always there and say whatever you put out into the world will come back to you twofold, good or bad. So I like the fact that all that man did was wish a couple well, and again, that was returned back to him in twofold. Cool. The last story I got, guys, is going to kind of remind you of a certain thing. So all I'm going to say is what this reporter is about to say, just kind of get through it because, again, with the Olympics starting up very soon, I know I'll be watching it because of a certain speed skater a certain African-American speed skater that will be competing. I know I'll be watching it. There's also another reason to watch it. Even though I'm not from that country, I still support them just because of a movie that for a lot of us, near and dear to our hearts, especially mine, and now that very same group that movie is based off of will be competing back in the Olympics.
Feel Good Friday, where we bring you a little good news heading into the weekend. So, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
Now look in the mirror and tell me what you see.
You see Junior.
You see Junior. Well, you want to know what I see? I see pride. I see power. I see a bad mother who don't take no crap of nobody.
So you ready to feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme? Well, get on up. It is bobsled time. You may have recognized that clip from the Disney movie Cool Runnings, inspired by the first appearance of the Jamaican bobsled team in the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. Well, it looks like we have a real-time, real-life sequel happening before our eyes because for the first time in 24 years, Jamaica will compete in the four-man bobsled after many years of training, injuries, frustrations, even a global pandemic. This team has made history by even qualifying for the games. Joining me now, two of those stars, Jamaican Olympic bobsled team pilot Sean Wayne Stevens and Jamaican Olympic bobsled team brakeman Matthew Wekpe. Guys, so good to see you.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you
okay. You guys are being way too mellow right now because when we talked before the break, I asked you both, Matthew, what do you see in the mirror?
I see pride. I see power.
Sean Wayne?
I see pride. I see power.
Oh my goodness gracious. Matthew, you're going to need to goose him in the bobsled because he's going to need a little more energy here. Okay. All right. So
I'm supposed to be in the mellow one.
Okay. Sean Wayne, what was your first reaction when you found out you were actually going to the Olympics?
No, we're absolutely over the moon. I mean, it's been a rough, there's been a lot of struggles over the last 4 years to obviously achieve what we've achieved. And we've done absolutely everything in our power and everybody's come together as one team to be able to qualify for the game. So it's been absolutely amazing and everybody's really excited and can't wait to get to Beijing and perform.
Well, I think you can tell we're excited too. Matthew, how about you when you got the news?
It was amazing, to be honest. Literally, I started bobsleigh over the lockdown. Sean Wayne reached out to the Jamaican Sevens team who I play for as well, and kind of gave me that opportunity, and I said yes. And a year later, being able to call myself an Olympian is just an amazing feeling.
Tell you what, you're a renaissance man. I'd love to play all those sports with you. Shawn Wayne, Jamaica is not an easy place to train, as we all know, for a winter sport with all the beautiful weather, the tropical climate. And on top of that, you dealt with the pandemic, but you still managed to make the Queen of England laugh. Let's take a look.
So how do you train?
So during the lockdown, unfortunately, with all the gyms and everything closed, we had to sort of resort to unorthodox sort of training methods. So I've been pushing a car up and down the street. I've had to make a gym.
Well, I suppose that's one way to train.
Okay, I think that's the first time I ever saw the Queen really get a good belly laugh. I love it. You're not only, the team pilot, Shawn Wayne, but you also served in the Royal Air Force, which is why you had this connection. Looks like the Queen is digging you. What was it like talking to her?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing to be able to obviously speak to Her Majesty and tell her about our unique training experience and telling her about bobsleighing as well. It was amazing, and to get that response from her, you can tell she was genuinely interested in what we were doing and stuff. And I think she's definitely one of our biggest fans.
Yeah, it's a good fan to have. Were you really pushing cars?
Yeah, we were pushing my fiance's Mini Cooper up and down the street to sort of replicate sort of resistance training. We had to do to be able to be fully prepared for obviously qualifying for Beijing. So.
Okay, I love how Matthew is laughing. Matthew, are you saying you weren't pushing the Mini Cooper?
I wasn't pushing the Mini Cooper. It was one of our athletes in Imre. But yeah, if I was there, I would have been pushing it as well.
Okay, good. So Matthew, as you know, the 1988 Jamaican bobsled team faced a pretty brutal crash. It was hard to watch. Do the injuries, this is the serious side of the sport, right? We're having fun talking about the movie and all of that, but it's dangerous. Does that ever scare you? Is that ever on your mind?
It always is. You have to be prepared for these things, but I do have a lot of faith in my driver. Well, I hope so. And, you just got to believe in him and just know that, he's going to take you down the track. But as you said, yeah, you do get injuries and you just have to, stay prepared. And, it does help having a good kind of physio on board who's helped me a lot personally. So, yeah.
Oh, well, you bring up a good point, Matthew. Shawn Wayne, look, you're Royal Air Force, you talk about the ultimate pilot. Do you think that training and that experience helped you, in this Olympic sport?
Yeah, definitely. Being in the military, it's all about being calm and collective and being able to sort of think on your feet. And that definitely comes across into bobsleighing. When you're driving a sled, you've got to be calm and collected and being able to think on your feet and being able to process things really, really quickly. So, it's definitely come across both into military and into sport. But yeah, like Matthew said, the guys have a lot of trust in me, and I also have a lot of trust in the guys as well. So, yeah.
Well, Matthew, what do you think? Is there going to be a sequel? Because a lot of people have been asking if there's going to be a Cool Runnings 2 based on you guys.
Well, I would love it. It would be amazing. I do have a lucky egg, which isn't actually a lucky egg. So I'll be taking that down the track with me at the games. So, maybe we'll prompt some possible sequels.
I love it. We are going to be rooting for you guys. Shawn Wayne, Matt, so great to have you today. You got us off to a great start for the weekend. Appreciate you both.
Thank you very much.
Now, I thought that was pretty cool. Now, keep in mind, number one, yes, Derek, the Jamaican bobsleigh team. If you've never seen Cool Runnings, to me, it's still one of my favorites. I still show my niece and nephew that movie just because it is based on true events. It is based on the first ever Jamaican bobsled team to actually go for the Winter Olympics. And now that again, I want to say that movie came out 90. When did that movie come out? 92, 93. I want to say between the 92, 94 range. So, that movie came out in Disney's heyday in the 90s. I want to say it was 94 was it 93 or 94? Anyway, it was back then. That just goes to show you my age right now. But even now, as the Winter Olympics are about to kick off very soon, or actually kick off this week, I believe. I'm definitely going to be watching that just because, again, I always want to support, like I said, in the words of Issa Rae, I'm rooting for everybody black. So I will definitely be rooting for the Jamaican bobsled team. I will be rooting for our black speed skaters. Yes, we have black speed skaters, and they definitely do require our support and our love, and definitely want to share them, because I did actually share that speed skater on a previous podcast, and I will definitely be watching it for them. So yes, I am rooting for everybody black. I got no issue with that. But that's going to do it for our podcast, guys. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for commenting, for letting people I know I'm live. It is definitely much appreciated, you guys that watch and interact with me. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I certainly appreciate it. Now, before I do get out of here, I do some shameless plugging. I do have to first talk about people that, share the love with me as well as everybody else. Let me first get to my buddy, Big BZA Dot, which you can find him, the Von Westboon, on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials, where he has a couple of shows as he'll be returning his Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And, of course, his REF podcast, which is every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. But definitely check him out, the Von Westboon on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials. Also, shout out to RN Geek Present Geek Salad for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. Just like me, they're podcast brethren I met last year that do cover everything in the world of pop culture and everything outside of it with an intelligent but definitely unfolded perspective that I do like. And I know that sometimes I'm on their show as well. Can't actually wait to have them back on my Get Bit podcast. But definitely check them out on Facebook, as you are also seeing the YouTube page right there, RN Geek Present Geek Salad. Definitely check them out, like, share, and follow them as well. Now, as for yours truly, guys, my IG handle is still BlackFox447. Definitely follow me there, as I usually do post movie reviews, video game reviews, things of that nature, and sometimes gym stuff, because, I do a couple push-ups. Aside from that, I do like to post motivational stuff. My whole thing for 2022 is all about pushing people, encouraging people to basically be great. You have the ability to be great. If you have the willingness, you have the drive, if you have the absolute what for to go ahead and get out there and go get it, then my whole idea of it is, if I can encourage you as much as I encourage myself, because a light along with kindness, positive encouragement can definitely change a whole lot of people's perspective. Aside from that, guys, the actual link that is trolling down there, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course the Off Limits podcast. So you definitely can like and follow me there. Before I wrap this up, guys, let me say this before. I know we didn't mention COVID or the Omicron or any of its variants, but again, get vaccinated, get your shots, get your booster, wear a mask. Right now, those variants, along with Omicron, are very, very aggressive, and at the same time, they are causing so much havoc. They are disrupting society in itself. And yes, I am speaking to the unvaccinated. It is now time to come on board, because let's be honest, it is your decisions. It's the consequences of your decisions that we're obviously all paying for. I don't want to see another person get sick. I don't want to see another person die. I don't want to see another person in the hospital. But the only way we can do that is that we all work together. At the same time, there are still people that need life-saving medical treatments and surgeries that are waiting because a COVID bed is taking up the space. I am talking about people needing transplants, blood transfusion, kidney dialysis, diabetic assistance. Those people are stuck waiting because a COVID bed is taking up space in hospitals that are already filled to the brim. Let's do our part and try to actually get vaccinated, get masked up, and honestly try to bring these numbers down. Because the only way pandemics are beaten is when everybody's together, not when a certain number of people have a certain opinion that may not be medically or educationally advanced to make certain decisions or assumptions over those that do. Yes, I said it. The last thing I'll say about How the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds or persuade people. We're trying to do what the news stations of old try to do. Give you basically all the information and provide a logical perspective over it. We do a lot better in society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we did back then, like electing our first Madam Vice President and hopefully electing our first black woman as a Supreme Court justice. I am really hoping it happens. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed from repeat it. When people wonder how in the world we elected Trump, how in the world did we let profit increase so much that corporations are winning more than people that are just trying to struggle to survive, when we honestly wonder why society's backward, when education along itself is all in the toilet, then only then, once we address those problems, then we'll finally get the answer of how the frack we got here. Thank you all guys for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about the stories and all things that we covered. And if you like the show, let me know. If you didn't like the show, let me know. I still want to know your guys' thoughts on this. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll get through this, guys. Peace.